Hello, and welcome to Pivotal Moments, a podcast sharing, exploring, and celebrating stories of change, big or small. We are all agents of change and have the power to pivot at any point, at any time. I'm your host, Siria Gutierrez, along with my co-host, Melissa Robena. On this episode, we turn the mic on ourselves. You may have heard us thank our producer and music director, Ron Johnson, in the credits, but who is the man behind the curtain? Join us as we learn more about the man, the myth, the legend, Ron Johnson, and his multiple personas.
So, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm
I always feel like a silent observer. Now I get to contribute.
I'm excited because I finally get to meet the man, the myth, the legend that is Ron Johnson.
This is very true. Getting to have you on here and having you as part of the team has been so exciting. So thank you for being here. And for our listeners who may not be as familiar with you, why don't you just run us through, all of the hats you wear?
I wear a lot of hats. So this is the opening joke now, by the way, now that I'm like in my late 30s. All right. So my name is Ron Johnson, aka RJ Wayne, aka Phil Cipher, aka Ellsworth J on Twitch. I'm working on my membership into Wu-Tang. They said you have to have 6 names. I'm working on it. You gotta have 6 names to be a registered Wu-Tang member.
Sweet. I only need
I'm trying
one.
to fill a position.
I only need one. That's awesome.
Well, see, that's the secret. Cydia dabbled in rapping at one point. Did you know that?
I did not know this, and we will have to touch on this.
Yeah, she dabbled in it because it was a huge focal point of my life, and my friends were around me all the time. So I put the mic on them a couple times, and we had fun doing it.
Oh
This is true. This is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you two have known each other for quite some time.
Since 1993.
I like to say that I've known Ron since before he had facial hair and before his voice dropped.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That is an accurate assessment. We're talking 1993. The first time I met Cydia was in the 5th grade.
Mhm.
But we didn't like develop a friendship until like maybe about a year after that.
So coming back to something that you said in the beginning, though, you said this is a running joke for you now that you're approaching your late 30s. Why is that a joke? All these AKAs that you have.
So okay. So the battle with me in my life is not to let my personas take over who I am as a person, because they are very much similar and they're very much alike. So the lines begin to blur, and I found that as I get older, compartmentalizing these things, maybe that's the wrong word, but filing these things in their proper folders is what gives me more freedom to be myself.
So
Does that make sense?
It does. So how did each of these identities or aliases, I don't know what you would call them, come about?
Well, so the RJ Wayne I wouldn't say it's a pivot, but it's definitely a milestone. RJ Wayne was when I joined the Screen Actors Guild, and I sat there with my SAG rep, and we went through the database of actors, and we realized that literally the name Ronald Johnson Jr. has 400 entries in it.
Oh.
Right? And they're like, we have to come up with a name for you, something that's going to help you get jobs, something that's going to distinguish you around other things. So we did these variations of my name, and RJ Wayne literally has 0 entries in the Screen Actors Guild database. So I am the only one. And if you type my name in anywhere that has to do with acting, the stuff that comes up will always be me, right? So that's a milestone. Like, wow, like I've been training for this moment my whole life, but now I actually am an entity within this industry that I have observed so much, and I'm adding to the plot now. Like type me in an IMDb, I'm right next to Dwayne The Rock Johnson. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
Like that's awesome. I love that guy. Matter of fact, I mean, people with the name Johnson, you know, we all run pretty close. I might be related to that dude. I don't know. We
He
might be
might,
able to figure that out.
or well, one day, let's hope we can figure that one out. Okay, so RJ Wayne is when you
So
made it into SAG.
yeah, and that's around 2014, 2015. My longest running alias, the one that people know me by in the town where me and Siria grew up in, is Philosipher. And that is my rap alias that I've had for over, I want to say, 20 years now. And that started when I was literally 11 years old. So I began rapping, and well, I started out as a beatbox, but that's a story. That's, to me, those two stories are separate. When I really decided to write and create hip hop music and use my words to illustrate is when I feel like I became a hip hop artist. You know, beatboxing is a skill, but I'm not sure that crosses over into the hip hop artistry realm until you can do more than one thing. I mean, I think that's what our culture represents, that we wear many hats inside of the culture, you know.
Yeah, because I remember the beatboxing first.
Yeah,
I think that.
beatboxing was definitely the entryway.
Mhm.
Because Neil, my best friend, our close friend, Neil Robles, was a Filipino immigrant that settled in Chicago and then moved to California. And he brought with him the hip hop culture from Chicago. He essentially taught me how to beatbox, and that's how I started to take it seriously. That was all him.
I
But
didn't know that.
I'm way better than him now. I'm just gonna put that out there, cause he's a shit starter. He's a shit talker. So I'll call him out first, so I don't get called out.
So, in addition to being a part of SAG and a rapper, you also teach the arts. Is that correct?
I do. As long as I've been doing hip hop music, I've also been involved in at what your college brochure will call the humanities. Fine arts, acting, and music. I'm a classically trained musician. I started that journey with Cydia. That's how I met her. And while I did that, I've always had this thing: music, acting, performing, entertainment, just creative space in general. I've been acting since I was 3. Started music when around the time I met her, so I was like 9 or 10 years old.
What do you think inspires you the most about humanities or the arts?
Um, what I love the most about the humanities is just how there's just no one way to do it, and there's no single pathway that defines success, right? Um, if you're a doctor, you're for sure going to school for at least 8 years. You know, if you're a lawyer, you're going to school and paying as many loans as Cydia. Uh, you know, if you're a musician, if you're an actor, if you're an entertainer, if you're a creative person, you never stop learning. You're always in school because you don't know what somebody's going to ask you to do, right?
Mhm.
If you're an actor playing a doctor, you're going to have to exhibit at least 8 years of training that you don't have. So it forces you to think creatively and to keep your mind open at all times to be able to deliver what people need to see or what you need to do to give service to that art, right?
Mhm.
So you're constantly learning. You're always creative, especially with the money. We mad creative with the money because it ain't always around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was actually really fascinated by your guest form because you talk about, and I quote, the rotational pivot.
Mm.
So how do you like what caused you to pivot from RJ Wayne to Phyllis Cipher to any other aliases that you might have?
Um, I think what causes me to pivot is like I said, staying open, being reflective, knowing when it is time to switch gears. It's never stopping something. It is continuing momentum in different directions, right? Um, a stick shift in a car, right?
Mhm.
Um, in order to get to where we're going with a stick shift, we're going to have to shift inside the vehicle as we're moving, right?
Mhm.
That's the way I see it. They're merely gears in which you shift focus of the car, but not direction of the vehicle. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. And I mean, I think I took a drama class in high school. So I know that each of these skill sets that you possess, or each of these roles that you play, require different skill sets. So I guess a question that's kind of coming up for me is, what strength does each craft bring out in you, and how does this benefit you in your life?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay,
I
so
come with the hard-hitting questions. You should know
you
this
come
by
with
now.
them. I do. I do. I just never have had to answer them. Okay. I would say the skills that I have as an actor, as a performer, enable me to speak and listen thoughtfully. And for me, that's huge, because you can't always be talking while you're responding to something, and you can't always be listening to respond, right? Hearing people out for who they are and what they're actually saying to you is a skill.
Absolutely.
So as an actor, that helps. Your self-reflection, your innermost thoughts, the way you perceive yourself, the way you perceive others, I think that is all in musicality. So when I make music, if you've ever heard my music, it's like it's very on its face. I don't get very whimsical. Like I talk directly about the things that bother me, the things that I see, the things that I think about myself. Um, albeit in a creative form, but yeah. So that's how I think those things work together. And teaching obviously is a skill as well, to be able to collect what you've learned and give it to people in a format that they can understand, right?
Mhm.
But also for me, it's it can't be separated from the artistry. If something was given to you, give it back. That's how the artistry continues. That's how everything continues.
Of these three roles that you have participated in and have cultivated and developed over the years, which one do you think makes you feel the most alive?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, music is definitely more personal. Music is more personal to me, because like I said, they're uniquely my thoughts, right? So when you perform that on stage and you have a group of people vibing to that, that definitely makes me feel alive, in the best way. Acting to me is, the fun of acting is in the preparation, not in the doing. Um, I feel like when you're an actor and you're performing, that performance is not for you. That's for the audience. That's for something else. That's for them to get out of it. For me, the joy is in the rehearsal, the putting it together, meeting the people, that thing. But when I'm performing and I'm acting, I feel like I'm doing a job, and that is for somebody else.
Mm.
And I like this quote from Johnny Depp. He was like, "Well, after I record my scenes and I do the film, I don't watch my films because it's really none of my business." Like it's for everybody else.
Mhm.
So yeah, I like that. And I think that's how those two things differ. I love to get creative and to get involved in the filmmaking process or the theater process and all that stuff. But when I'm on stage, I'm not necessarily enjoying that. I don't think I can play the character and enjoy it. I don't think I could do both.
Why not?
I feel like it would cheapen it. That's just a personal thought. That's just for me. I feel like it would cheapen it if I'm too into it and having a good time. I'm probably not hitting the points that I need for the audience to get the story and for them to enjoy it. You know, it has to be this unique exchange between me and them. If I'm enjoying it, I feel like I'm acting in a vacuum and I'm cutting myself off from them.
So I know working in in the arts can be a difficult trade to get into. There's a lot of, people working theater, rapping. What are some obstacles that you've overcome to kind of continue on this path of, being an actor and being a rapper?
Um, there are a lot of obstacles, but I will say that the large part of them are all mental.
Mm.
There there really is more access to the arts as a job than you would think, um, and you can approach it from different angles. Uh, what's a good example? Okay, so yeah, like in LA, a storefront or a building you shoot in front of on a movie set, it could be 100% real on location, or it could literally be a facade. Like the front of the building is completely fake and there is no building behind it, right? That's that's kind of how I feel like the entertainment industry is as a whole, right? There are sometimes there are definite obstacles, like you can't do this until you do this. But other times there are obstacles that people put up. Um, Everybody is gauging you for competency. Where when you're in LA and when you're in the music business, everybody is gauging you for competency. They want to know how much you know and how much you're willing to do. If they can get away with having you do more than what you're getting paid for, most people will. It's about your intelligence and your competency that moves you forward. So the more you learn, the better you will do. Um, and especially with technology now, there's really no limits. I came from a time where the ideal situation to be a music artist was to be in that like 1970s studio where it's all big and you got the big board with all the buttons you don't know how to use. And then there's the glass window and then the microphones on the other side. It's just not like that anymore. Like people are making Grammy award winning stuff in their bedrooms.
Off of their iPhone, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So it's just not that way. So growing up and having those ideals, right? That's my ideal of success, but I can get there so many more ways than I could have back then.
So you mentioned that a lot of the obstacles that people that are wanting to break out in the arts might experience are their own mental, kind of talking about mindset. So what mindset do you specifically bring to your work?
Um it's kind of okay, let me phrase it like this. Okay. I'm kind of a radical when it comes to this sort of thing. A lot of people, um I wouldn't say lack the courage, but they hesitate when it comes time to do the thing that will really decide whether they want to do something or not, right? You have the pivotal moment, and that's what I'm talking about. So so my suggestion is, rather, I mean, picking your battles and taking a measured approach, everybody's different and that's cool. But my radical view on it is, if you really want to know if you're meant for something, if you really want to know if you're good at something or if you want to follow it, do it in the biggest way that you can do it in the moment. And either it's going to be really cool when it comes out or it's going to be a big old mess. Either way, you're going to be able to see everything,
Mhm.
Well,
right?
what's going to matter more in that process? Is it going to be the doing it or just putting it out there?
I think what's going to matter most is the putting it out there. Because like I said, internally, conceptually, you can dream up something all you want to, but when it's in front of you, it's a thing. You can see its imperfections. You can see where you feel like you did the right thing. You can see where you need work. It's all in front of you. So to me, that's the most important thing. And that's and I think that's a thing that performers all share when you're veteran performers, that you have to be willing to be the worst one in the room and learn everything, and you can't be afraid to fail.
Hmm.
you know Failing is definitely a big part of that. So yeah, so like I said, that's very free thinking, radical type of position to have, but that's the way I feel like if you want to do something, you should probably do it as big as you can do it in the moment.
What about your position? What makes you think that it's radical?
Well, the reason why I say it's radical is because we are collectively, the three of us, we are at points in our lives where we have fundamentally made choices about who we are, what we're doing, right? So for somebody to, let's say, drop everything and become an actor and a musician, you would literally have to uproot your entire life to do that. In some cases, in some instances, right? That's why I say it's a radical position, because some people will hear that and say, I can't do that. I can't do that right now. I can't do that anytime soon. You know what I mean? I have bills, I have this, I have that, I have this, right? That's what I mean. That's why I say do it as big as you can do it in the moment and see what comes out the other side and how it makes you feel. That's what I suggest.
And you're right. There's a lot of people who are not going to do that because they've heard the horror stories of, not being able to make it, not being able to be a working actor, having those kinds of things.
Hmm.
So what is your suggestion to those people who are interested in the arts, but, have their mortgage to pay, have these other things? How do you do that? How do you do it big in that moment?
Well, that's gonna look different for everybody. And that's what I mean. If you have access to, if you want to be an actor, there is a community theater near you. I guarantee it. Try it out. If you can't do that, maybe you could do an acting class once a night. But when you go to that acting class, really boss out. That's what I mean. Don't go in there shy. Don't go in there timid. Try what you want to try, because that's a safer place than most to really put it out there and see how you feel about it. Because then you're in the class, boom, it's out. The rest of the week feels different. The drive home feels different. The going to sleep feels different. The waking up in the morning feels different because you did that thing. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, because when you first talk about, you're like, because there are people that I know that have, basically dropped everything to go to Hollywood where all the stars are. But I mean, sometimes just even doing something at a local theater might be able to kind of like curb that itch that you need to scratch, right? For some. So you don't necessarily, need to go out. But for you, it seems to have worked well.
Only because I got halfway into it. Let's put it this way. It's a song lyric that I know. The further you're willing to go just to get it was the distance I traveled before I could regret it.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So as a young guy, I was fearless, and being fearless got me to a place where I was able to see everything before I understood the danger.
Mhm.
Right? So that maybe that is why I feel like I have these radical ideas, because if I see something I want it, I'm making plans to do it. It doesn't matter how long it takes.
Does having a family now change that perspective?
It changes in the way I approach, not in the deliverables or the outcome. That's it, because I made my family based on my ability to do these things, right?
Mhm.
Since I've gotten married and had a family, I haven't done anything different other than this rotational pivot that I do. If I'm not doing music, I'm doing acting. If I'm not doing that, I'm teaching, and you know,
Hmm.
rotate.
And so you had mentioned on your form that this rotational pivot between acting, music, and arts education has taught you, or you discovered a lot of things about yourself. What is one thing that you've learned about yourself along this path?
One thing that I have discovered about myself
Hmm.
is that I derive joy, literal joy, from investing in other people. Seeing their promise and seeing their capabilities, and knowing that I can maybe work with them to pull something out of them that they're not even aware that they have, literally brings me joy. Like it is human interaction and capability and capacity for human greatness is, to me, is like the greatest currency in the world. If I could invest in it in a bank, if I could um, trade stocks on it, I would. I love it.
How has the different personas allowed you to discover yourself?
Okay. My music has been a focal point for me dealing with my stress, um, the awareness, the things I see around me, my own ego, my personability, how I behave, and a really a case study of who I am as a person comes out in my music and in my lyrics. My service to other people, I believe, is all centered in acting. How I was given lessons, um, how I was raised, my sensibilities, I'm able to display that and give that through acting. Right?
Mhm.
Music is way more for me than acting is.
What is a strength or skill set that you possess that you believed has helped you along this journey?
I think on the form I put resilience.
Mhm.
But I think the last thing I put is the most important thing, which is the being able to recognize the unspoken detail in people's words. To read need, like they used to say when I worked at retail jobs, you need to read the need, Ron. you, most people don't say what they want, but if you look hard enough, you can figure out what they want and what they need, and you can go up and talk to them and interact with them. Legit, great skill. Great,
Th-
great
that,
skill.
that goes into what you were talking about, having listening as a skill,
Yep.
right? Because that's what that is. You're reading the nonverbals, you're reading what people are saying, what they're not saying, and pulling that out. And so that plays into you being able to pull out that potential out of people, right?
hmm
And when you do that, when you're able to pull out that thing that they didn't think they had, what does that do for you?
Oh, it's it gives me immense joy because I know that that's only level one. You know, once you have broken that ice, there's like you open those chakras. There's no going back, right? It becomes a part of you. Once you've done it once, that's what I like to say to my young actor friends who are just starting out. Once you've gotten paid at acting, you're a professional. But that's also the limit. You don't go beyond or you don't go below, right? Your pricing, your fee increases. It should not decrease. For the, like bare minimum, you should be taking what you did in your first job, right?
This is just my random curiosity here. So
hmm
I know you started off with Phil Cipher when you were younger, and then out came RJ Wayne. Now, as we progress, is there any future aliases that we should be out on or the lookout for?
Well, um, so I forgot to put it on the form, but there's the Ellsworth channel, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm rebranding. So after I have this 3 album deal with this record label, my record label in Utah, it's called Ellis Beetle Entertainment. Um, they've been my home for some time now. They made a music division for me because they like my music so much. Like I'm the only artist in that music division. And I signed a 3 album deal with them. And when that third album gets created, I'm retiring the name PHILASIFER. I would no longer use it.
How does that make you feel?
It I'm overjoyed because you must understand that when I started in hip hop, it was a time in where much was expected of you in the culture, and you had to behave a certain way, and you
Mhm.
could not say certain things, and you could not do certain things. That is self-imposed stigma. That is self-imposed regulatory measures, right?
Mhm.
In the mid to late 90s, you were not a hip hop rapper if you did X, if you did Y, if you did Z, right?
Mhm.
I am so much more than a hip hop artist. And I think the Ellsworth branding enables me to do all of the things I know how to do at once without creating any stigmas associated to it, or being able to limit myself on purpose, because I have done that for quite some time. Um, yeah, the type of hip hop music that I do is very regulatory. It very rarely drifts out of the traditional style that I'm well versed in.
Mm.
And for some people that gives them comfort. It's like hip hop comfort food, you know? Like they miss when hip hop sounded like this, so that's when they listen to my music, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's time for me to step out of that. So my last couple of singles, I've been doing that on purpose. But PHILASIFER will be done pretty soon.
Wow.
That's a whole, not even a chapter. It's like multiple volumes of your life.
Mm-hmm. Good 15, 16 years. Yeah.
Wow. And you're just gonna pack it up and
I mean, like I said, you want to know if something's meant for you, you gotta do it big.
okay. And
You gotta do it big.
what about packing up Phil Cipher do you think is helping you do it big? Why do you need
Just
to cut off that appendage?
well, I don't need to, it's not an appendage being cut off. You know, like I said, PHILASIFER is like it's an alias I assumed to do a certain thing. Um it's the Bruce Wayne Batman thing, right? Batman is who he really is. Bruce Wayne is who he pretends to be, right? So when I was a teenager, emotionally abandoned, my parents are divorced. I'm in this. I have a chosen family of great friends, who helped me through that, and the creation of PHILASIFER was an alias that was incorruptible. It was an image that I could put into it whatever I wanted. That's how it served me. Like I said, all of my creativity, all of my thoughts, my own ego. That's very hip hop, to deal with your own ego in music, right? To say the things you wish you could do, but say them in the present tense as if you're doing them. That's mad hip hop, you know. So yeah, that gave me free range and license to explore who I was and to grow up. You know, I don't need it anymore.
So if continuing on with music, that's going to be Ellsworth.
Yeah, Ellsworth will be the new pen name, and that's gonna encompass a lot more musical diversity. It definitely will be hip hop. I will definitely rap, but I'm a producer as well. You know, I love pop music. I can sing.
So
You know,
I'm curious how this new pen name will differ. So how is Ellsworth different than Phil Cipher?
Ellsworth is different from PHILASIFER because it encompasses all I have learned as a human being, rather than just being all I've learned in hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, PHILASIFER is definitely a hip hop thing. It is a hip hop entity. Ellsworth is definitely a humanistic entity. It is much more than any one thing that you will hear me do on the record.
Well, I think it's good. I know that on the show, City and I will often talk about mindsets or beliefs that no longer serve us, and it just seems Phil Cipher no longer serves you.
Yeah, just not my direction anymore. I felt like I did it to the best of my ability. You know.
And how do your fans feel about this, Cydia? How do you feel about the hanging up of Phil Cipher?
Well, I mean, here's one of the things, right? I've known Ron longer than I've known Phil Cipher. So I'm okay with it, but I'm also okay with people evolving and letting them move on for things. So, you know, right now one of my fandoms is ending, and
I
I'm
know.
okay with
I've
that.
been seeing your ugly cry
Oh my
posts
God, I
about
know.
Supernatural, girl.
This is true, but I'm okay with letting people do what they got to do. If that's going to make you happy, moving on. If you're just like, okay, the time has come to say, you know, goodbye to Phil Cipher, that's okay. As long as it's making you
Yeah.
happy, as long as you're not doing it out of fear, you're not doing it out of regret, you're not doing it out of anything negative. This is just, okay, this is my natural evolution. You know, I'm in my late 30s. I'm going to move on and show the world my whole self, which sounds like Ellsworth is going to be able to encompass that. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Phil Cipher, I just said everything that I wanted to say. You know what I mean? I mean, like, look at hip hop right now. My lord.
Yeah.
You know, like, my lord. I'd just be beating the dead horse at this point. You know
Right.
what's funny about that is that, like, it's not like I'm gonna hide my music from anybody. It's just gonna be a complete discography. You know,
Mhm.
it's gonna be, and if the, if hip hop needs me, then I'll come back. But there's plenty of dudes who do what I do in hip hop.
As soon as you said, if hip hop needs me, I'll come back, I just see you rushing in with like a cape, a Phil Cipher cape. So
That,
Yeah.
that's definitely the way I see it.
The first iterations of Cipher had a lot in common with the Green Lantern, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Melissa.
I'm not.
So I will explain. So, okay. So good that you brought that up. So yeah, so the reason why, again, this is a human self-discovery thing. This is Ron, as a teenager, I was drawn to the Green Lantern because the Green Lantern is a superhero that derives its power from its creativity. The superhero wears a ring that literally can project anything out of the ring into actual reality that he's thinking.
Hmm.
If he wants to create a gigantic fist to punch somebody into space, then it will come out of the ring and it will punch them into space, right? So when I took it as PHILASIFER, I was like, yeah, your creativity, your mind, we can use the power of prose and hip hop to create things in reality that we don't have,
Mhm.
right? So like my math teacher in 7th grade said, Mrs. Short, she said, we don't always have everything we need, but we can pretend.
There you go. All right. So
And it turns into reality at some point if you believe in it hard enough.
I'm not sure that's exactly how math works, but okay. So
That's the way my math works.
before we started recording, you had brought up that you were wearing your necklace. It's got a mixtape on it. Can you
Yes.
tell us about this necklace?
So the reason why I carry this around, and this is probably like my most important piece of, I guess you could call it jewelry. First of all, Cydia, you know me growing up, I love necklaces anyway.
Hmm.
I've been wearing them since I knew
Before it
what
was
they
cool.
were.
Mhm.
Yeah. And but this one is special, and I wear this to commemorate a bunch of different things. But this was how I made my first music. I had to make it in mixtapes, but understand that I took it way too far. I took it way too far. And here's what I mean by that. So most people, when they're playing around with recording, they will, plug the microphone into the tape deck, put on a tape, sing into the microphone, rap into the microphone, record it, and listen to it and play back. Nah. In my mind, again, the ideal of that big 70s studio with all of the tracks in it, right? So I was like, how can I do what they do without having anything? So I bought 20 tapes. Okay. And I had a 2 tape deck cassette recorder. And okay, this is the tape we record on. This is the tape with the beat. Play the beat, record. When that's done, the beat goes out, the tape comes over here, another tape comes in here, I record it. So that has the beat and the vocals. This has my dubs. Okay.
Wow.
I take that out, I put this in, that has the beat, the verse, the dubs. Then I add the chorus on it, right? And it kept going and going and going and going. And so that's how I taught myself how to be an engineer. That's how I taught myself, audio engineering, by cassette tapes.
That is impressive. And, I know that there's probably some young listeners out there that are like, what the hell is a cassette tape?
Yeah. What is a cassette tape?
And for those of us who remember, I remember trying to record songs on the radio, and you're trying to time it just right before the DJ came back on and ruined your mixtape. But that is so fascinating how much time and effort you put in. But that also goes back to your mindset of go big or go home, right? You
Right.
got to be big in what you did. That's amazing that you
But
reversed that.
But also this is in memoriam to one of my dearest friends who passed away in the hospital this past December.
Mm.
And her name was Michelle Rizzi. And for her, if it were not for her, I would not have a music career. And once I really stepped my game up and I was like, oh, I'm a rapper now, she literally gave me her karaoke machine, which was a 2 tape deck karaoke machine that I made my first album on,
Wow.
which was called My Secret Identity, by the way. And that was the name of the album, which was one of my favorite TV shows growing up as a kid. I don't know if you remember that show
Mm-mm.
where the dude was the superhero. Awesome 80s TV show. So yeah, so she gave me her karaoke machine, and I told her I would always pay her back, that I was good for it. And I talked to her once in October, right when the book that I just recently wrote got turned into a play, and it debuted in Hollywood last October. Well, not last October now, because October has passed. But
Nothing in 2020 happened. We get it.
yeah, I mean,
2019.
I still had some wins in 2020. I can't ignore it completely. But yeah, so I had a phone call with her in October, and it was the last conversation I ever had with her. Um, she passed just months after that conversation. I never spoke to her again. And so yeah, so I was made by the tape, and I will die by the tape. And for all of those who are not with me, I carry the tape.
That's
Wow.
it. That's a beautiful memoriam.
Yeah, I miss her a lot. She really helped me through a lot of hard times, as all of you guys did. Um, you know,
Yeah. Here's one thing you don't know about Ron, Melissa. Ron is actually super lovey-dovey, emotional. He's like a big teddy bear.
I could see that.
He really is. He really is. His rapper exterior is one thing, but he's definitely multifaceted. Um,
I will not deny it.
this
I
is
will
true.
not deny it.
This is true.
I give good hugs.
Uh, it's been a while. Haven't had one of your hugs in a while, but I will
We'll
agree
get
with that.
there. I'll get to Vegas. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, we've come to the time of the show where we ask all of our guests, and you are one of our guests, our signature questions. So, reflecting back, what would you tell your younger self?
Trying to remember what I put in the form. Okay, I remember. Um, Act more, hesitate less.
Very
When
Aaron Burr of you.
Yes. Except yeah, I ain't gonna do nothing like Aaron Burr. Um, that's actually more Hamilton of me than Aaron Burr, if you think about it. So there are so many things when you take some research for you, Melissa.
Oh, yes.
When you take, but you already know this. I know you do. When you take a multiple choice test, your first answer is usually the right one. Most people get it right the first time, but they second guess themselves into choosing another bubble and they get it wrong.
Hmm.
You know, act more, hesitate less. Cydia will tell you that growing up, when I grew up in, like I said, I made a big mess, or I made a big presence in front of everyone I was in front of when I was growing up. Cydia has been witness to me doing some truly ridiculous shit. Okay. But the ones that stick out to me, the ones where I have done ridiculous things, the most ridiculous thing I've done in front of Cydia is do something that wasn't me. You know, not be myself on purpose to achieve a result, or to achieve a goal, or talk myself into thinking I had to be something in order to get something else. The most powerful moments I've had with Cydia is where she's like, Ron, you don't have to do this. Like, you cool enough as it is. You're good the way you are. You know, but she has truly been witness to me, like stepping out of pocket,
Hmm.
and going after something that, if I had to change myself that much to go after that, then it wasn't mine to begin with. It wasn't supposed to belong to me.
Hmm.
You know, and that, yeah, act more, hesitate less.
how far you've come, which is awesome, which kind of leads to my next question. So looking forward, what is one wish that you have for yourself on your current journey?
That I can build financial freedom off of the things that I'm passionate about,
Mhm.
without being dirty or underhanded to people. Being authentic, um, and being passionate and still getting what you want, I believe is you can achieve that. I think you can do it. No shortcuts, but you can do it. That's what I want most.
That's
And to invest in more people.
I think those are really great aspirations. So thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for making the time to spend with us this Sunday morning.
Are you kidding me? I love investing in you two.
Thank you.
You
We
guys are
love-
great.
Learn more about Ron by visiting his IMDb page, enjoying his PHILASIFER music on Spotify. Don't worry, we'll link all his info on our website. What rotational pivots have you experienced? Let us know your thoughts on this episode in our private Facebook group, Pivotal Moments HQ. We want to thank our producer and music director, as always, Ron Johnson. This has been an Astronomicus DMR production. Thank you for listening. Remember, it's never too late and you're right on time.